Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. My name is Lauren Milojevic. I am the Director of Marketing and Business Development at Simplify. We have Charles Sindelar, one of our managing partners, on today's webinar, focused on SAP Analytics Cloud Automated Analytics. At the end of our webinar, we're going to be giving away a free badge to our June event, where we'll be hosting an Analytics Innovation Summit on June 18th and 19th in Chicago at the Roby Hotel, along with a Cubs-Sox game on that Tuesday night. So if you're interested, which I know a lot of you are, please comment in the questions section, and we'll make sure to consider you. So don't forget to do that. And now I will hand it over to Charles. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Lauren. And, you're welcome to come, even if you are a Sox fan, to this event. Okay, I just want to make that clear, being a Cubs fan. For 3 generations in my family, Sox fans are welcome. And, I really, if you're interested in SAC, there are plenty of events out there where consultancies and SAP go out and talk about these things, but there are not many events where you have customers talking about it because it's such a new product. So if you are a potential customer or a customer of SAC and are really interested in learning more, it's good to come to this event and meet some of the people that have already done it. You can hear the good and the bad and all about it. So please reach out to Lauren. Her email again, and that is MILOJEVIC at Simplify Solutions. It's Lauren.Milojevic@Simplify Solutions. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we're going to cover off today. Very, very brief intro to Simplify. There's always a few people on the webinar that are stalwarts and come to every webinar, and it's a repeat, but then we'll get into the good stuff there. All right, then the good stuff is really just kind of an overview of the future of finance, and then we'll jump into the demo, and I'll show the really cool features that SAC has. All right, so who is Simplify? We're an SAP partner with recognized expertise in EPM, and that's actually like a certification that we had to go through with SAP. We have SAP certified consultants and references, and we are staffed in large part by CPAs and MBAs, and we have a very large consulting base in Chicago. Our office is actually in Oak Park, kind of between Chicago and O'Hare, so we work all around the country and Canada. So, but strong focused in Chicago area, and we do have consultants in other states. What we do, strong focus on BPC. Personally, I've been doing that for over 10 years now. Now we're moving into the SAP Analytics Cloud era, so lots of activity around that. We do BPC versions, embedded and optimized, and we also do BW projects and just general integration projects. We work tightly with SAP, and we offer implementation services, training, and staff aug. And what's kind of our mission statement, really? We're a boutique firm with a lot of experience, and our goal really is 100% referenceable clients. That's how, we get a lot of business, and, it's important to us. The EPM space is relatively small, and, we strive to have a great reputation. And our success really is driven in large part with not only working with great clients, but our consultants as well. And we try everything possible to have happy customers because it's far more enjoyable project for everybody if everyone's happy, and we succeed at that. All right, So, kind of get into what we're talking about today. SAC, which stands for SAP Analytics Cloud, is a truly innovative product. And it does a lot of traditional things like dashboarding, and you can hook it into AO and just kind of do BPC-like reporting. But I think it's really kind of we're at a pivot point in technology. So I just wanted to step back to this nice picture of the IBM mainframes there and the tapes on the desk. This really kind of for me is the dawn of the computer era in the offices. And for finance, what that meant is you could kind of tabulate things with automatic hierarchies. You got machine printed reports on these big pieces of paper, and you really needed IT specialists to run code and things like that. And, once the books closed, it took a while and to get these things distributed, and it was definitely not self-service. Then kind of coming along in the 80s and 90s, we started entering the era of Excel, and, power users were able to use tools to start building their own reports. In 1999, first version in 2000s, first versions of BPC and SBase are now kind of available, and people start adapting them. And it really enabled people in finance to self-service. They didn't have to go and talk to an IT specialist about how to get a report out. They were able to do it themselves. Some people, had greater success than others. What I like about this picture here is the fact that, this person who's doing finance still has up in the corner on their desk the DBase 3 book. To really be powerful in these tools, you still needed to have some level of technical savvy. But what it really did was allow, people to start analyzing and creating their own reports and do it on their own time frame. They weren't really dependent on another organization within their company. All right. So that's kind of the history. And it's more, what does the future hold, right? BPC is a strong, powerful tool still being implemented, but it doesn't, work in some ways that SAC does. There's a lot of similarities, but SAC, the Analytics Cloud brings a lot of new functionality. And what we're going to be talking about today is the automated analytics that it can provide. The automatic analytics really allow kind of the first cut of analysis and commentary to be done by a machine. And it automatically generates these things. It guides your discovery into your own data. And, it can all be done without having a PhD. It's kind of like if you know how to use the web, you can use this tool. That's kind of how it's geared at. And also it allows, we won't cover this in too much detail today, but really for me, the planning functionality of SAP Analytics Cloud allows you to automate planning at such a level of detail that you could never do before. It's possible to do regressions and simulations at a SKU by customer level with this tool. It takes some time, but there's really some interesting things happening in this space. And additionally, the tool is evolving. SAP continues to pour development into this tool, and I think over time, there's always what's new. At the top of the screen, after they do an update, you could click on it and say, well, what new functions are available, and they're usually very interesting. So what does this kind of really mean? I started out about 20 years ago being like that report generator, using SBase and similar tools at BPC to generate reports and hand them off to my boss. And everyone thought it was great because we could do it a lot quicker. We were able to start automating things with report books and really cut down on the repetitive tasks. But, at the end of the day, we didn't still have that much time for analysis. And certainly any analysis that we did, probably the biggest, you might get some conditional formatting on outliers or something if you were really clever in Excel. That was about the extent, that and some sorting of what you could kind of analyze automatically, maybe do some graphs through really into Excel. But what we were kind of seeing into the future really is the machine itself doing the analysis, at least the first cut. And we'll do that in the demo. So what are we going to look at today? Oh, wait, before that, what is a SAP Analytics Cloud? So it's kind of, they're focusing the tool to be the analysis point for a large majority of users and to take other applications in other areas of the company and feed it into this tool and get planning and simulation, predictive analysis, and business intelligence all out of the same tool. And there's also something called SAP Digital Boardroom, which is like a sister product of SAC, very SAC driven. Not talking about that today, but if you do hear that, this tool and Digital Boardroom have a lot of overlap. They're driven by the same engines. So, just to drive home the point a little bit more, there are many data sources that have built-in connectors to SAP Analytics Cloud. I come from a BPC background, and this tool will integrate and directly with BPC. You can plan in SAC, have those results push up into BPC, have calculations done in BPC, and it gets pulled back into SAC, all in real time. It takes about a minute based on my latest implementation for that round trip to happen on a reasonable size data set. But there are all sorts of connectors. You can connect it to Google Drive. You can connect it to all sorts of SAP products. It has all these different non-SAP data source connectors, and they're adding more every day. So that's great if you have these powerful tools, but a lot of companies still have older tools. And at the end of the day, you can still do flat file kind of integration with this tool as well, until you kind of get up and running on the more automated parts. And you're not really limited with this tool to financial data either. I mean, you can integrate non-financial data sources as well. So we're going to cover a couple of different tools, and before I show you, I'm going to explain what they are. The first tool or feature really that we're going to look at is called Search into Insight. And this is basically, my kind of layman's terms, perhaps like Google for your financial data or whatever data you have in SAC. You can basically enter questions in text, just like you would a Google search, and it gives you results, and you can kind of ask the questions in different ways and understand your data. But it's basically, instead of drilling down on like a spreadsheet, you are now asking the computer directly with text questions. So we'll do some examples of that. Then we have something called Smart Insights. So what this tool, part of the tool, does is show you, it analyzes your data and provides commentary and insights automatically. What it does is it looks down the different dimensions and it finds things of significance and brings them to your attention. And once it pulls up some stuff, you can, using the tool, drill deeper into it and see what it's all about. Then finally, what we're going to do is a smart discovery. And smart discovery, obviously it does a lot. The first thing that it really does is it takes all your, you kind of give it a request. You have to think about a little bit about how you're going to request this pose this question to the system. But once you do, it generates a whole set of dashboards and analysis for you to look at. And we're going to do one of those in real time today, just so everyone can see how it works and see that, you don't have to, be a big data scientist and have a lot of BI experience to set up the dashboarding. It does take a little bit of work on behalf of the consultancy or whoever or internal resources to set up the data integration and kind of structure things in a way that's useful to the end user. But once it gets done, the end user really has a lot of power. So we'll be doing that. And then we'll also touch on a little bit about predictive forecasting. There's some real powerful tools both in SAC and also that integrate well with it. So we will do a simple one and look at it and talk about it as well. We are not going to do a huge real-time boil the ocean type exercise simply because that can take a little while, and you get a lot of detail and it's of interest, but I'm trying to show the features and the highlights here. Okay, so with that, let's go to the demo. Okay. All right. So when you open up SAC, web-based tool, it takes you to your home page. And we have a sample story here, so I'm just going to click on that. It is going to pull it in. All right. So it pulls in this dashboard. It's building it here as it all comes down. The little, they call them the ellipses, I believe, kind of show that it's still generating. But as that builds, we can see that, this story has a couple different tabs. And we'll talk a little bit about just a quick overview of how the tabs in general work. The tabs here are interact in real time. This is not a static thing that's pushed to you. You have the ability to interact with it. So, just to kind of on the overview page, just to give you a flavor of that, people who aren't that familiar with SAC, I can click on LATAM here, and so I'll do that. And it refreshes here in real time. And what you can see here is it's now grayed out all the different other areas of the company, and it's updated the charts for LATAM, and it's the whole page. It's basically, instead of being the complete profitability for region, it's just focused in on LATAM. So part of the tool there, very interesting to me in that, obviously you could kind of filter and control it. Click back on it, it goes back. You can add commentary to these screens and then share it directly with other people within your organization. So the tool itself will allow you to share your comments and analysis with people in your organization. You don't have to extract it out, take screenshots, put it in the email. It's all within the tool. And there's a ton of features like that. Don't have time for that today. Just going to focus in on some of the insights. All right. So I'm going to go over to the Human Resources tab here, and we're going to talk about that functionality that is Google-like. So I'm going to go over here, click on search. I'm going to start asking the machine questions. So this is the HR tab, and there's information in the system, and I'm going to ask it, just how many employees are in, stick with LATAM. So how many people do I have in Latin America? Search, and it gives me the answer. Right there, it figured out what I wanted to know and provided me the answer directly. And this is really cool to me. I didn't have to, find the right report, drill down on LATAM. I was just able to ask it in natural text my question and get the answer. Let's try another one. Let's ask it a finance question. Say, what is the average expected, do spell check. Yeah. Revenue. Click on the search. Okay. So here it's giving me the average expected revenue as well as the weighted revenue for the whole organization. But what if I wanted to filter that down a little bit? Maybe say average expected and weighted revenue in LATAM. Click on search, and we'll go figure that out. So you're able to ask a question, natural text, get an answer. Also has some, related things like if you want to see what this is, so it gives you some other possible options here of your search results. And, let's ask it two more and then we'll move on to some other functionality. I think you gals can get the gist of how this works. So let's say, who is our top customer? All right. So brings up our top customer for expected revenue, which is a metric that this whole dashboard is kind of built around. And it's Palo Alto Airways. And it gives the expected revenue for the time period we're considering. And if we wanted to, again, refine it back, let's say I'm only in charge of LATAM, I can ask it that. All right. So we ask it that, and it gives us the, says New Pilar AM. I'm assuming that's some kind of Spanish company name, or perhaps Portuguese. All right, so that's this feature, the search into insight. We'll wait till the end to ask questions. So I'm going to show you the next feature here, which is really something called Smart Insights. Not Smart Discovery, but Smart Insights. So we'll close out of this, and we are going to let's pick something up here in the corner of the dashboard. All right. So this dashboard here in this corner is talking about contractors with budget on track. Obviously, this is pretty terrible. If, for the sample we're looking at, it's pretty much 2/3 of the contractors are over budget. You can set the color scale for these dashboards, but if there was a color more urgent than red, maybe some red with some flames coming out of it, that would be what this should be. So let's, click on it and see if the machine can tell us a little bit more. So it can, and we know that because it's popping up a light bulb. We can also filter on it, and do break points and things like that. But today we're going to click on the light bulb, find out a little bit more about what's going on here. So it runs through our data and looks at it and provides us a little bit of information here on this one about what we see. And it's, it's kind of grouped it by the project managers. And, you can kind of configure this as how you want. It shows, here's our average, and we can see Adam Tang is way above average. Now, it could be that he has most of the contractors working for him, but, I think as far as getting the problem resolved, or at least understanding why things are the way they are, the first call is to Adam. But, we can also kind of figure out a little bit more. I mean, we see Absolute Staffing here. The staffing agency that provides those contractors is way above average. But let's look a little bit maybe about the category. So click on that. And if we want, click on category, you can see here light bulbs popped up again. So we can do additional smart insights. Click on that. It's going to do some analysis. And it's going to say, these Category 5 type employees are primarily located in Beijing or elsewhere, but majority of the issue seems to be in Beijing. We can see here that a little bit the Skype only is probably the project. However, what that means, if that's the project name, that is an area of concern. So, that is kind of smart insights. I mean, and you can keep going, right? You could click on Skype only, go to this, and drill down, get some more information as well. Okay. So moving along here, we are going to build a story. I sometimes use story and dashboard interchangeably. And we're going to do that by running a smart discovery, which is different than smart insights. But smart discovery will contain some smart insights for us. So we're going to click on this. And I have to dig out my data here. So it's the public, and then I got to find the model. And then search on it. Okay. All right. It's SAP Cloud for Customer. Okay. So what it's going to do is going to look at our data set. And we're going to build a whole dashboard and some analytics around this or story by having the machine do the work. But we have to give it some parameters, right? So I wanted to, I want to learn a little bit about expected revenue. And because there are things in our measures here that are related to expected revenue, such as weighted revenue, and that's going to be a pretty much very tight correlation. I don't want the machine to focus on that as far as the insights. So I'm going to tell it to not look at that by unchecking that. And it's going to look at other things. The next thing we're going to do is, because I'm trying to understand some nuance around expected revenue, I'm not that interested in deal size, because the larger deals will have more revenue, and the probability, because this is a forecast, so they do some weighting, is, we want to remove that. So, what we're trying to do is remove things that are basically almost a mathematical formula within our data set, or have such a high correlation, it's super obvious, and learning more about them is not going to be, there's not going to be anything we can do about that. All right. So now we wait. So right now it's drilling through all that data, looking at it, and building a story with a couple different tabs. So, this is powered on the HANA. It's hosted. This is a hosted software. And this does not take long. And really the power of the tool is the fact that it's going to do what we're going to see here in about a minute. It's going to build that out in a time frame that would probably take someone, it's probably a good part of a day to build out. So it's already starting to bring back the data here, which is always like, does my internet connection go down as I try and build this for everybody, a demo? Okay, so, it's looked at our data. And the key thing to remember is this is a moment in time. So once you close another month or do another forecast, you run it again. You can schedule that, and it's relatively easy to do. So what did we learn here? So in the Overview tab, we have a summary of the expected revenue right here. Obviously, the total, and it breaks down the analysis of where that expected revenue is coming from. It breaks it down into $1 million groups. Obviously, we could see here that this is more, most of our deals are less than $1 million. We can scroll down here and we can see here how the revenue has been trending over time. If I scroll over, I don't want to do that. Come on. Maybe I'm all the way over. What you can see here is it's taken, our last data point is in January, and it's forecasted out the next 4 months. And what it's done there is you can see here we have an interval that's the 95% confidence interval for our forecast going forward. So these are machine-generated data points based on the data that we already have. Over here, we have expected revenue, and it gives us a little step chart here to show where it's building up. And down here, we also have some other information on where the revenue is coming from. Fortune 500, enterprise, and all that. We also have some smart insights that's already populated within the Overview tab itself. And it's done all this automatically. It's used the Smart Discovery tool itself to generate all this. If you were going to do this yourself, you just follow the same steps. There wasn't a lot of effort that I needed to put into there. And so that's the overview, but what did it really find out about our data? So it looked kind of at our, key influencers here. And what we see is that we have, very high quality data. And the biggest influencers in our data set, business area, number of customer trips, and the source of the deal. So it says it's very high quality. For those of you who know have a background in statistics, obviously you can have low quality results and better fitting results, and we'll show that a little bit. So if we go along here and click down, it tells us a little bit more. So here is the average expected revenue of each business area. Here is the frequency of the expected data and by these customers. So it said, we can see here that, and it pops it up, what we see here really is that the SMB business area comprises, most of the deals that are fairly small. And, when we jump over to the bigger deals, we see that it's the enterprise customers. And then the big deals, are the Fortune 500 customers. So it's kind of laid them all out of you. So it's putting buckets around the data sets that you have and telling you, where your expected revenue is going to come from. It also is doing some analysis around the human behavior, I'll call it. This one is how does the number of customer trips influence expected revenue? And we'll show that in a simulation in a minute. And it basically provides a rubric here, and it's coding it by the different customers, and we could see that for the higher expected revenue amounts, for the bigger customers, they get a lot more business. All right. And then it talks a little bit down here around, where is the lead source? How does that impact the expected revenue? So is it coming from the campaigns? Is it coming from customers reaching out to us directly, or the partners? Here we see that the partners really contribute a lot. But obviously, the partners are probably maintaining existing accounts, whereas the account team and other things are driving the original first contacts with the deal. All right, so let's just touch real quickly on some of the statistics behind this, because it's kind of like, people say, it's like, well, how did this happen? How do I trust what I'm seeing in this dashboard? I mean, it's great that the machine provided all this, but how did I understand what it was? So basically, as with many statistical tools, there are rejects. So it takes the data, builds models against it, and it looks and it tries to understand. It does the model, and we'll use the model in the simulation next. How does that model fit? If I take my model and run it back against the known values and inputs, do I have outliers? And the answer is yes. There are 34 records which are unexpected. And this data set has about 2,000 or so records. So it's not a particularly high number of rejects. If you want to see more about any kind of particular thing, you can filter on it. If I just want to see, well, what about SMB customer rejects, I could put up here and filter it. And if you scroll through this data, which I've done, but we won't do it here, you'll find that there really doesn't seem to be any pattern. It's fairly random. Down here, the statistics show you basically, the blues are what the model would have expected it to be versus the actual. And here, for me, this really tells it, like, this is the trend line where you'd expect it. For some reason, we got a few, they all seem to be on this side of the trend line. If you understood the data perfectly, this should be much more random on both sides of the line. But since there's only 22 of them, data set seems to be a high quality. So now that we've built this model, what can we do with it for simulation? So we'll click on this. So the simulation here is, how do these influencers contribute to expected revenue? And how, by changing these influencers, can I change my expected revenue outcomes? What actions can I do today that might have a positive impact or negative on the expected revenue? So, I think, what we have here is, there's slices. So here, we're looking at the cloud software group. We could look at server and see how that model looks. We could, with the influencers, we can look at different areas of our group, but we can also run simulations. So in this one, what we can do, one of the variables that we can control is the number of customer trips. And if we adjust the slider, you can see that based on the model, if we increase the number of customer trips, the expected revenue goes up. Now, and we also see that if we reduce it, the expected revenue goes down. What we don't really capture here, and this is why the analysts will also have jobs in the future, is it doesn't really, we're not necessarily capturing all the nuances. I mean, if I simply crank it up to 25, yes, we'll have more revenue, but at some point, there's going to be diminishing returns. You can't, and that's why they've limited it here to 25. You cannot, say, we'll visit a customer every day, and obviously, that will drive revenue now, but it'll also drive costs, right? Because at some point, you're going to need to start hiring additional staff to visit the customer. So that's my overview of all of this. I'm going to open it up for questions or next steps. The tool and the demo here, obviously I'm kind of moving through a lot of different stuff, and it is a very kind of simple data set. We're talking about sales and HR. If you have cubes already, it is, these can be plugged in to the tool, and you can start using your existing modeling in the tool relatively easy. If you have VPC, there's an integration tool that SiMplify is very familiar with that will bring that right in. And we know we have some offerings around that. So if you want to reach out to Lauren or myself about how you kind of get started in this. Also, I will be down at Sapphire in a couple of weeks. If you want to meet there and just talk about it more, grab a drink, happy to do that. Reach out to me. And also that seminar that we talked about with the Cub Sox, it's a great place to learn more. All right, so I'm going to open it up to questions here. All right, let's see, we got some questions. All right, okay, good. Got a whole bunch of people interested in the badge. That's excellent. So if you want to type in your questions now, I'll start answering them. Are you linked to SAP Live data, or is this a snapshot pre-stored for the dashboard? So there are many different types of data connections that are available. You can store the data purely as a snapshot in SAC. You can do a live connection to your SAP data repositories directly. So it works both ways. For this, obviously it's a demo, it's a static data set, but the integration comes with the tool to do that directly. All right. Yeah. So if you do have any more questions, please type them into the question box. All right. Let's see, got one more coming through. Another question I hear a lot of is, where can I find out more about what data sources that this can link into? If you go to SAP's website, there's a listing. It's not necessarily that easy to find, or you can write me and find out a little bit more about what data is there. But that list is constantly expanding. I mean, I can't keep up with it, and it's so large that how should I put it? So large, I can't memorize it all. I don't have the time. All right, we got another. So we got a question around what type of licensing do you need to actually do what we did today? So there are several flavors of licenses, and there's a predictive license, a planning license, and a analysis license. So for what I did today, I believe almost everything that I did would fall under not the there's basically 3 tiers of license. It would fall under the second tier, which would be the planning license. I don't know if I touched on anything that requires the predictive license. That's a question that, and how things have been licensed has changed a little bit over time. So if you already have an existing implementation of SAC, you really need to kind of just circle back with your administrator about what license you have. And this demo that I did is built on some pre-built content, the JF Industries, which you can download yourself and try out. All right. Any more questions? Going once, going twice. All right. Lauren will get back to the winner of the free badge. And, I'd also like to say, thank everyone for their attendance. Reach out to us on LinkedIn. If you want to see some part of this demo again, we will be publishing it out to our YouTube website. So thank you once again, everyone, for your attention today. And, take me up on the offer to meet up at Sapphire if you're going to be going out. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.